to Out There. I'm Papa Joey Stay.
And I'm Uncle Tim Rice.
In this series, we explore the unexplained
and the paranormal.
While I'm somewhat of a skeptic,
I'm a full-on believer.
Together, we take a deep dive into all things that could be considered out there.
We discuss everything paranormal, from ghosts and UFOs to cryptids and more.
Join us as we unravel the mysteries behind the stories
and decide for ourselves
if there is something more out there.
Hey, welcome everyone. Welcome to Lunch Hour.
Lunch Hour with Papa Joey and Uncle Tim. Oh, I got to bring up some comments here so I can see there were three, now there's two. Who are
we'll be back.
Sandy's on. Hello, Sandy. Thanks for
Sandy.
joining us. We got a really special one today, so I don't want to get started with the meat and potatoes too early. Because
Sandy D.
This will be the only place that you'll get this information.
D.
I say this will be the only place you'll be able to get this information directly from an eyewitness of a very infamous UFO encounter.
And Joey and I have learned a lot of the last 48 hours.
I mean, it's amazing you could learn more than you've already known. You lived it, but I mean, there's just so much more information out there now than there was even the last time we talked about this. So
which I think things are starting to become more released and what do you call it, declassified?
Yeah, declassified, and it's like, I remember you saying that we'll get a news story one day saying aliens have landed on the White House lawn, and everybody's going, "Oh yeah, that's cool."
Yeah, whatever. It's like the Tic Tac video. I thought that would just like blow up.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, cool. We got aliens or alien technology.
Our military officer is saying, "Yeah, we follow this thing, no big deal." So, I guess what I have to say is really not that important anymore. It's to me, but I think they're dumbing us down, so they're not loosening up on the. I guess there's a new election over in Europe, and is it the French or whoever it is?
Yeah, France had theirs like a few weeks ago,
and they said if he was elected, he was going to release all the UFO files.
Oh, that's it. The right guy got elected, right? So
yeah. And then the guy that was running against Putin said he was going to do the same thing, but I guess he's in jail now. So,
wow, we're kind of experiencing how that kind of government works right now.
Third world. No kidding.
I don't want to get political, so we won't.
No, that's all right. It's all about just.
Yeah. Well.
It's all about.
We have a few more
classifying
before we get going. But
we can wait for a few minutes, let everyone get joined. I know it's lunchtime, and I know a lot of people are busy and working. And bless your hearts, if you see
it's
this
lunchtime
later.
in California. It's the noon hour,
right?
2:00 here in Texas,
right?
Well, it's noon in Arizona too, though. So getting our Arizona peeps popping in. And I think it's
I'm not sure.
See, 1:00 in the Rockies.
So Chris should be what, 8:00?
Yeah, she's at 1. Oh, that Chris, not my sister Chris.
No,
I think he's 7 hours.
7 or 8.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so
we hope Scotland hops on. But
yes, we do. This is a really big shoe.
So we're redoing this show because we haven't done this on our Out There yet, our suds.
Yes.
We've done this on our Truth About Beer program. We got a lot of response from it, and a lot of people are asking, "Do your show again? Do your airline thing again?" So we were looking at it, and Joey and I have been doing a little bit of research, and fortunately, we've come up with a whole lot of new information that wasn't available before. And we'll share some of that with you, but it's exciting for us. And so I mean, honestly, yesterday I found out some new information, and I mean, I got chills. I felt like I did back when it happened. I felt the same way. I had adrenaline pumping through my body, and I had chills on my arms, and I got that feeling back. And then, like, after we got through doing all this stuff, I was like exhausted because I feel like I relived the whole thing.
I witnessed it.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible.
Hey, Super Horror Show, Papa Bones. Welcome on board.
Welcome, man. So anyway, yeah. So Joe and I are having a beer at a little restaurant. You know, we meet halfway and we discuss the show and everything, and we're finding out all this new information, and I'm getting all excited, and I couldn't even sleep last night. I'm like, there's so many questions I have now, so many things that have opened up, and we found out a lot of stuff. A few things I didn't know. So
yeah, I mean, stuff that's available that we
that wasn't before, and so really exciting, man.
When we originally did it, I'm sorry, Jim.
No.
When we originally had you on the first time on Truth About Beer, and we did the story on it, you were telling us about an episode of Sightings that shared it, and you got really excited about that because pretty much up until that point you didn't really share your story because you were told not to.
Exactly. And that show Sightings happened just a few months after the original sighting, but it was only up for a short time, and then it was taken down, and then you couldn't see it again. So for years I've been telling Joey about this episode on Sightings, and I tell everyone, and I'm like, but we've been unable to pull it up or find it. And it's just,
we're talking only 5 months after the actual event was it on
Right.
Sightings. So I mean, because it happened in May of 1995, and this episode of Sightings was in October, I think. That's what we discovered.
November, season 8. Oh, season 8, episode 4.
No, it was episode 8,
season 8,
season 4, season 4, episode 8.
Yeah, but I've been searching for this for years because I've always wanted to show Joey, and it's just never been there. And voila, yesterday.
Yeah. So you've seen reaction videos on YouTube a whole lot. We've never really done one, so we're going to do it this way today. So we have that video that we're going to share with you from Sightings, and I'm going to have Tim interrupt me so he can kind of. Okay, I'm going to set this up. So there is a ton of information out there on this incident, and there are lots of stories. No eyewitness stories, though. There was the closest one we got was Lou Elizondo interviewed the air traffic controller that you'll hear on the transcript or on the flight, whatever you want to call it, the dialogue back and forth. And so that was cool, but nowhere in there are you ever going to find an actual eyewitness to this, except for here. We have Tim, who was.
Yep. I turned down all the offers to A&E and hard copy and 48 hours. I'm like, nah, I'll take care of this myself.
Here's the big part that Tim played in this.
Yeah, check this out, guys.
If it'll play. That means I have to go over here to start it.
Okay.
I won't see you guys when I start it.
May 25th, 1995. America West Flight 564 is a Boeing 757 en route from Dallas, Texas to Las Vegas, Nevada, with a full cabin of passengers.
25-30 knots.
Captain Eugene Tollefson is at cruising altitude when a flight attendant sees something strange.
You've seen those lights at 3 o'clock.
I've been following them for a while.
Against a scattering of clouds, the crew reports strange lights in the distance.
Oh, now I got to get back here. Anyway, Tim, I have to say that Your transition is really amazing.
Yeah, I no longer
you
identify as a
very
female
well.
flight attendant.
Yeah, you look great for a guy now. So,
Yeah, I went through the change, and I'm doing real well with it.
yes.
So anyway, but they did. Of course, nobody had any information because all attempts to contact the crew were denied, and nobody contacted me or the FO or the captain. So you have the story based on air traffic control and the Freedom of Information Act, the transcripts, which are available, and many people have done their little. So, for example, the Smithsonian, they did. Hey, welcome back, Sandy. Many of these um, entertainment companies have redone the show based on the information they have, and it's cute, and you know what you hear and what you see. I mean, the transcripts and the recordings are all real, but there's a lot that didn't get told in their stories because they just didn't have the information. So we've got a couple more that we can show you as well.
It's a stereotypical thing. When you hear flight attendant, you're thinking stewardess.
Yeah, stewardess. So they just put a stewardess on there, and that's cute. But
that was cute.
It was cute. At first, I was pissed. Now now I would just laugh. It's funny. I think it just shows you how disinformation comes about. And it's okay because it's a part that they didn't get, so it's completely understandable.
Yeah. Now, was it that one? I didn't actually listen to the first part. Did they say it was coming from Dallas?
Dallas to Las Vegas,
which was wrong because it was
coming from Florida. And there's a lot of little things that they get that the people narrating it get wrong because they just didn't know. The transcripts and the recordings, that's all completely accurate, but it's just the lead up and the narration and all is a little clouded. So I can set some of those things straight.
All right. Well, here's the sightings episode, and just kind of signal to me, Tim, and you want me to pause it.
All right.
Or I'll pause it when I'm thinking there's something you should.
Yeah. Let's
whatever.
I hope you enjoy this. This is really fun.
On this edition of Sightings, on a stormy night over New Mexico, the crew of America West Flight 564 saw something in the air that shocked them.
When the lightning, you can see a dark object, and it was pretty eerie looking.
Sightings has the incredible untold story of a UFO encounter at 30,000 feet.
Recently, Sightings was contacted by 2 air traffic controllers, each describing the same disturbing incident in the skies above New Mexico on the night of May 26, 1995. Here is part of one of the controllers' message, as recorded on the Sightings hotline, electronically altered to protect the caller's identity.
Yeah, I work as an air traffic controller, and a pilot of America West Airlines had seen an object between 300 and 400 feet long.
Through the Freedom of Information Act, a Sightings investigative team has obtained the actual radio transmission between a flight control center in Albuquerque and an America West Boeing 757. Based on these transmissions, we've been able to recreate a startling encounter between a commercial aircraft loaded with passengers and an unknown craft 6 miles above the Earth. The voices are real. The words are not scripted. This is the actual transmission recorded at the moment the UFO was sighted.
Actually, I'm going to stop it because I want you to set this up before.
Okay. Thank you.
Before he got on and started talking.
So, and what you're going to, I'm getting chills. Man, that's, it's like reliving it. So I'm sitting on the flight jump seat. And I was a first class flight attendant, and I worked all of first class, and all of my people were asleep. We were coming from Tampa to Las Vegas on a red eye. We left there at I think 10:30, 11:30. And then as you fly west, you gain time. So it was on the 25th, but we had, that's when I first became a flight attendant. I was 21 years old. That's Ed Beauvais and Mike Conway, the president and CEO of America West Airlines. But so So I was sitting in the cockpit, and all of the people were asleep, and I hang out there all the time, and I talk to the guys, and I do that on all the flights after everyone goes to sleep. So the other crew were in the back, sitting in the back galley, just reading books or whatever they're doing. And so I'm sitting there. It's a very uneventful night. We just passed through a thunderstorm, which was in the panhandle of Texas, like just south of Lubbock. And we just flew through the panhandle, and I was sitting out the window. I was watching out the window, looking at all the lightning and the storm, and it was beautiful. Up ahead of us, it was clear skies. So right as we get through the panhandle and we're entering New Mexico, I'm sitting on the jump seat. The first officer, he's looking at a Baja motorcycle magazine because that's what he did. And the captain, he was doing his, position reports, and it was his flight. So he was paying attention to all the controls and the paperwork and the radar and everything. And all of a sudden I said, "John, what is that?" And I saw this, well, sort of like this. It was about this long. It's 300 to 400 feet long. I say yards. I don't remember. It was long. And I said, I saw two flashes. I saw a flash and a flash. A flash and a flash. And then between the two flashes, there was a zip. It was a flash, zip, flash, zip. A little white line ran across to the other one. So on this picture, it looks like there are lights all running down it. But now that I think about it, I thought they were strobes, then sending a beam over to the other strobe. But now that I think about it, it must have been like a saucer, and the light was probably going around. And then when they got to this side, it was brighter. And when it got to this side, it was brighter. And it was probably doing this. So that's why it looked like a boom, boom. So that's what I figured out in my later days. Before I simply couldn't explain it. I'm like, "John, what is that?" It was like 2:00 our position. And he looks up, and he pulls his seat up, and he looks out the window, and the whole cockpit was silent. I'm like, "What is that?" And then right after I said, "What is that?" the first officer radios Albuquerque control. So we're in a state of shock. and this is what happened right after that.
Off to our 3 o'clock. Get some strokes out there. Can you tell us what it is?
But air traffic control cannot tell America West Flight 564 what it is. The object is not on radar. The tone of the radio communication begins to change.
There's nothing on the radar on that object that's up in the air. It's up in the air? Affirmative.
No, no one knows anything about it. What's the altitude about?
I don't know, probably right around 30,000 or so, and the length is unbelievable.
Albuquerque
Okay, so it started at 2:00, and then I'm like, "What is that?" And then it zipped to 3:00, and it stopped. And then all of a sudden, it moved down a little bit, just a little bit, and then it just took off into that cell of thunderstorms we had just passed through and disappeared. And so as this was going on, the captain was like, "John," the first officer, John was talking to the Albuquerque control, and captain was fidgeting, and he was looking, and he got up out of his seat, and he came over close to us, and he started looking. Then he went back and sat down, and it's just chaos up there. And all of a sudden, the captain reached up. He goes, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm taking it off autopilot." And he goes, "No, you can't do that." And he backed his hand off. And he goes, No, we can't do that. We can't do that. He was so shocked and so freaked out. He was actually going to disengage autopilot and turn toward the object. I mean, he was in shock. And I know you can't do that. He knows you can't do that. We all know you can't do that. But dude, the shock took over, and we were freaked out so bad. And so, he maintained control, and we recovered, and then we watched this thing zip into this thunderstorm. And right before it zipped into the thunderstorm, it stopped, and then we could see the lightning from the storm in the panhandle. And it was at that time it lit up, the lightning lit up, and we saw the object. Up before then, we could only see the lights, but then we saw the object, and it was a long, to me, it looked like one of those nuclear submarines, just a long thing without the bubble in it. It was just long, stealthy, dark object, and it had no lights on it at that point. And it, when lightning illuminated, you could see the whole thing, and it was huge. And so we calmed down a little bit, and then the rest of the story is what you'll hear. I continue to sit there and just like keep looking for it, even though it wasn't visible more than a couple of minutes. But this is what occurred after that.
Albuquerque controllers contact the military for an earthbound explanation.
Anna, go ahead.
Hey, do you guys know if there was anything like a tethered balloon or anything released that should be above tie band?
No, we haven't heard nothing about it.
Okay. Guy at 39,000 says he sees something at 30,000 that the length is unbelievable and it has a strobe on it.
Uh-huh.
This is not good. Okay.
What does that mean?
I don't know. It's a UFO, so...
He's right. It's right in time. No, we haven't seen nothing like that.
Okay, keep your eyes open.
Foxtrot Kilo.
Dr. Richard Haynes is an aerospace engineer and aviation expert. For the last 30 years, he's been conducting independent research on pilot sightings of UFOs. His collection of pilot reports is the largest in the world. Sightings provided Dr. Haynes with the America West transmissions for his analysis.
In fact, where we initially spotted it was between the weather and us, and when the lightning, you could see a dark object, and it was pretty eerie looking.
Well, the pilot has just discussed the sighting again in a little more detail with air traffic control at Albuquerque. And he said that he saw a dark object because it was back illuminated. Basically, lightning in the cloud at some distance caused the object to be visible. He then said it looked eerie.
3 of us up here saw it.
We have only Dr. Haynes' analysis of the event because all attempts to interview the America West crew were politely but firmly denied. There is no law that prohibits them from speaking out, at least not any written law.
They don't encourage you reporting it, that's for sure.
This man, a United Airlines pilot for 35 years, also had a UFO encounter at 30,000 feet. But it is only now that he is retired and anonymous that he's willing to describe his sighting.
When it was ready to leave, it departed at a very high rate of speed, accelerating as it went, and disappeared off into the distance at speeds that I couldn't even estimate. The other crew members have never come forward.
Alitalia pilot Graham Shepard is also familiar with the industry's code of silence.
It is a commercial judgment that pilots shouldn't speak about this. Unfortunately, it's a fact of life that any member will downgrade the potential of that airline to earn maximum profits.
Despite the airline industry's efforts to silence its pilots, these transmission tapes speak for them. After the New Mexico controller's initial call to NORAD was laughed off, NORAD called back.
We had someone call here earlier about a pilot spotting an unidentified flying object.
Yep, that's us.
Okay, well, hey, we're tracking a search-only track kind of up where that might have happened. It's tracking about 390 knots. We've been tracking it for about 3-4 minutes now. I mean, to be going that fast, it's got to be up kind of high.
Yeah, you got no code on it, huh?
Nope, it's search only.
It seems that the radar controller was tracking an object, an unknown, that wasn't transponding. And by law, any craft in controlled airspace must have a transponder. But it's very interesting that ultimately it was seen by the radar controller.
This is an historic UFO event. Audio tape confirms that 3 highly trained commercial pilots witnessed an enormous UFO, a UFO confirmed on radar by NORAD Air Defense Command. This is one encounter that cannot be dismissed as a hallucination or a hoax. Something was up there. Are we prepared for its return?
I've listened to the American West tape, and my opinion is that it's absolutely authentic. If handled correctly, this tape could be something of a breakthrough.
First time in 15 years I've ever seen anything like it.
Ooh, I got chills. Oh, my arms are just on fire with chills.
Yeah. To me, the most compelling part is that last bit with where NORAD contacted them.
Yeah.
And we are tracking something, but it's not transponding.
Yeah, and imagine I went months without knowing this. I went.
Wow. You just knew what you saw.
I just went home and remembered what I remembered and knew nothing about it. And then when I saw the sighting episode, it said, yeah, NORAD eventually saw it and they called back. I'm like, whoa, it was like bombshell moment. I'm like, all right, sweet. We weren't stupid. We weren't crazy. It wasn't a hallucination. They verified it. And that just made me feel so much better. Like I wasn't going crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, say hi to.
Oh, I see. I got to bring comments back up. I keep going over to. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's
all right.
My cup is in.
My cup is in. Yeah. Welcome.
Oh, my sister's on too.
Oh, hi, Chris.
That appeared while I was off of the.
Yeah.
Reading the what's this we're looking at? This is the comments. That's what they're called. Yeah,
we're looking at the comments. Sorry, and they're little, but yeah, Sandy, I'll get to that point. The story gets more interesting. Sandy asked, did they discourage us from saying anything? And oh boy, did they. Yeah, that's
well, I think that right now would be a good time for you to kind of tell your conversation with the captain, but that
after
without mentioning the name.
After the effect. So all right, so the flight continued and we tried to maintain control and be professional and gather up our whatever sense of professionalism we could manage. We were very, very freaked out. It was life-changing. And in those, I can't remember how long it was from the time that we saw it, but the time we landed in Las Vegas, but it seemed like a million years. It just, so many things are going through my mind. And so we get ready to land at Las Vegas and we wake everyone up. We prepare the cabin for landing. I go in and I tell the guys, hey guys, cabin's secure. We're ready for landing. And he said, all right, man. All right. I'm like, he was still shook up. So I went and sat down and we dimmed the cabin lights again. And we land in Las Vegas and we pull up into the jetway and I'm the first flight attendant. So I look out the door and there's 4 people in suits. Not Men in Black. I didn't know what Men in Black was back then. It was no. I don't think.
Were they black suits though?
They were dark. They were black. Yeah, they weren't blue.
Without hats. They didn't have on hats.
They didn't have hats on. They were just 4 business. They looked like supervisors. Our supervisors dressed in a coat and I'm like, that's kind of odd. And so I picked up the phone and I said, hey man, do you see this? He goes, yeah, just get an ID before you let anybody in. I said, you got it. Well, I hung up. The door opened. Passengers started to get off. I was in first class. So, there was like people grabbing their luggage and there were little breaks in the people getting off because people were like getting caught up, getting their luggage. And so the one guy walked up and he said, hi, I'd like to speak to the captain. And he pulled out his ID and he showed it to me. And I have no idea what it was. It didn't say FAA on it, which I'd seen, FAA the whole time for years working for the airline. I'd seen FAA. I knew exactly what FAA did, but he presented a ID to me that was black, laminated, and it looked official. Now I'm so freaked out that I'm like, well, if he got this far, he's probably legitimate. So I probably, and so I let him. So I said, can I have your ID, please? And I took the ID without really glancing too much at it because I didn't know, didn't care. Went in, gave it to the captain. He said, yeah, let him in. So I came back, handed the guy his ID, and the guy goes into the cockpit and he shuts the door behind him. So I'm trying to maintain my breathing, and I'm trying not to let anybody see my legs shaking, and I'm trying not to sweat. And the other three guys were there, and there was a little lull while people were getting their luggage. So a guy walked up and says, hey man, how's your flight? I said, it was great. What's going on? He goes, oh, we're just doing routine checks. No big deal. He goes, anything different about the flight this evening? And I'm like, no, we had a great flight. It was completely uneventful. He goes, all right, thank you. And he backed up because another guy was coming out, and he kind of backed up and get out of his way. And so he just stayed there in the jetway, and he didn't come back in again. So I said, goodbye, have a good time, win a lot of money, blah, blah, blah. And so everybody got off the airplane. And then, so when the captain started, we were supposed to, that was our last leg. So from here, we're going to walk over to another gate and get on a flight and deadhead home. We're not working. We're just riding home to Phoenix. Our day's done, but that's how we get home. When the captain comes out, he didn't even look me in the eye. He just walked out, had his his case and he just walked out. He walked into the jetway with these guys. It wasn't 15 seconds later, the first officer walks out, and then as he's walking up, he looks at me and he's like, I'm like, all right. Because him coming out, nobody could see him. So I'm like, all right. So he walks out and he goes, I'll see you at the other gate. And I'm like, all right. So everyone gets off, and I'm I don't know what I am. I'm in denial, I guess. I'm in shock. I
would say more shocked, man.
I wanted to. So I told the rest of the guys, and they're like, hey man, what's going on? And I'm like, dude, I told you we saw something. Because after we saw something, and I went back to the crew, I'm like, guys, we just saw something. And they're like, really, UFO, little green man? I'm like, oh yeah. And they didn't accept what I was telling them at all. It just, yeah, well, oh cool, man. Well, ET phone home, jokes and everything. So I really didn't pay any more attention about giving them any information, yet I wanted to, but because I wanted to tell somebody what just happened. And so anyway, we all left. The crew, we got our stuff together, got our bags, and we went over to the other gate, and we got on the airplane that was bound for Phoenix. And there's probably 20 people on the flight. So we go back to the overwing because we sit in the overwing exit. So I sit on the window, and the crew's sitting right behind me, and so we wait. The pilot comes on and says, well, folks, we'll be headed out here in just a minute. We're just waiting on some connecting bags, and the weather in Phoenix is 11 degrees, and our flying time should be 54 minutes, so we should be there in plenty of time. So we'll get going here in just a few. So we wait, and about 10 minutes later, the guys come on board, and they walk down the aisle. They don't make eye contact, and the captain sits on 11C, and first officer sits on 11D, and they're all across, and I'm on the window, and I'm like, hey man, what should he? I'm like, dude, what happened? He goes, not talking to you here. And I'm like, he said, no, not here. And I'm like, okay, all right, fine. So we fly this 52-minute flight home. The whole time he's dead still. We can't sleep on flights, but he kind of like closed his eyes, or he was looking away. He never talked to me the whole flight home. And so we get off the airplane, and we're walking through the terminal, and I'm like, dude, you got to tell me what happened. He goes, I'll talk to you in the employee parking lot. I'm like, all right, fine. So we go down to the curb, we get on the employee bus, we take the bus all the way around, and the whole time I'm sitting here going, dude, tell me what happened, what's going on? And he would not make eye contact with me. So we got to the parking lot, and I wasn't parked where he was parked, but I got off when he got off, thinking I'll just find my car when we're done with this. And I followed him to his car, and he says, we didn't see anything. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, we didn't see anything. We're not to report anything. This never happened. I could lose my license. So from here on out, we don't talk about this. And
I mean, I posted it again because you're answering the question for sure.
So I'm like, dude, you can't do this to me. You got to tell me what happened. He goes, no. He goes, I will talk to you later. He goes, just forget this ever happened. So I get in my car and I'm driving home, and I'm like, it's probably 2:00 in the morning, and I'm like looking up at the stars, and I felt like they were following me. I felt like this presence, like they know I saw them. And it was the weirdest feeling in the world. And I was actually afraid. I was driving I-10, toward Tucson. I lived in Ahwatukee, and I was driving that way, and I just kept looking up. And I'm like, I don't know what I was expecting to see, but for some reason, I felt like they knew I saw them, and they were following me. I've had this feeling of them like watching me, monitoring me, being right over my shoulder. It was the weirdest feeling I ever had. So I get home, and I'm staying with my mom and dad because I commute, and I crash pad with them. And so I get home and I open the door and I go in and I wake up my dad, he's a theologian. He studied Hebrew, Greek, and and Bible and theology, and he's very educated in like many different religions and how they convert. And so they have this thing called the coordinates, which is like a dictionary for the Bible, because things in Hebrew and Greek don't necessarily mean the same things in English. So they get lost in translation or confused in translation. And I said, look, I just had something happen to me. I just need you to answer one question. Is there anywhere in scripture or in religion or in spiritual record, is there anywhere that confirms or denies the existence of other life? Because up until then, I'd never been a little green alien believer. I didn't know what aliens were. And he said, well, I can give you some scriptures and some whatever, and you can look at them. And he brought up a scripture with Noah. He brought up a scripture with Abraham, Daniel, and Ezekiel. He goes, you need to check Ezekiel 1. And I'm like, okay, all right, fine. He goes, other than that, I don't have an opinion. And I'm like, all right, fine. So I tried to go to sleep. My whole day and my whole week was all screwed up. And I started delving into Ezekiel, and it's just an exciting chapter. And you'll never sit in a church and have any minister start a sermon by saying, all right, folks, turn to Ezekiel 1. That'll never happen because it's too controversial. It describes a complete abduction, and he describes the vessel coming out of the sky, which had the color of amber. And if you look in the Coordinates Dictionary, it says amber is polished bronze burning metal. So I did all this research, and I'm like, you're right. No, nobody would ever talk about that. So I start diving into Noah and Abraham and Daniel and Ezekiel, and there's many more. Trust me, there's many more, but that's not anything you're going to hear about in a sermon. So I'm freaked out, and I'm like, all right, this really happened. I'm starting to come to my wits, acceptance that this happened to me. And I lost contact with the crew. I was off for, I think, 13 days, because we work like 4 days and we're off 12 days. Then we work 4 days and we're off 13 days. Then we work 4 days and then we're off. So we only work a few days a month. Oh,
talking about the Bible there,
those huge coordinates. Yeah, the big the coordinates, I think, is what he's talking about. Yeah, those are, and I didn't know what a coordinates was, but they are fantastic because they translate Greek, Hebrew, I can't remember, Latin, and every word in English means another word in all those other languages. So where it takes one word for English, like amber, which is like an innocent, like, yeah, it had the color of amber, and you're thinking, oh, it was orange. amber is deciphered from Greek and Latin, which uses a whole lot more words to describe it. And so polished bronze, burning metal, we say amber. But in Latin, you say polished bronze, burning metal. So it's really, really strange.
That is.
And I mean, you can look all this stuff up. I mean, it's amazing. And that's why the Bible is so, it's been rewritten, and that's why everybody interprets it completely their way. Or exactly what you just said. Exactly. Perfect example. So you can't get caught up on too much about what you're reading. So I was taught when I became an ordained minister, I was taught to read the word and pray on it and ask God to translate it to my heart so that I would understand it. And that's what I started doing. So I stopped being a preacher anymore. I didn't preach from a pulpit. I didn't do that anymore. I talked to people outside the church, and because I didn't want to give wrong information. You can't just read the scripture and then quote it and tell somebody that they gotta understand it for themselves. You give them the food and they eat it, and then they they pray on it, they deal with it, and then they receive that from God. And that's kind of like how religion, I guess, is supposed to work, which I don't want to get off in religion. I'm just saying this changed my mind about everything. It changed my mind because I started reading stories in the Bible, and I started reading from the coordinates of all these stories we've been taught all of our life. And it was actually not what it was. The Tower of Babel, how you change their languages, and they got confused languages. They couldn't finish the tower. That's the King James interpretation. All right. There, if you dive into it and research it, it's a whole different story, which I won't get into. However,
I don't want to get too far off of our topic. So.
All right. And so, well, this is where I'm getting to. I had to say that to say this. I became unreligious. I became spiritual. I decided religion was not necessary anymore because I have obtained a different level of spiritualism where I now know more than I knew my whole life. And it's not about what we're taught. It's about what you believe. There's something out there. There's another power out there, or several powers out there, that are very dominant and they're there. And I now recognize that. I don't need a Bible to recognize that anymore. I've become spiritual. I'm not religious anymore. I've become spiritual. And that's fine. And it got me to where I believe everyone should be spiritual, but if you have to have religion to get you to a spiritual place, then fine. If you don't, then fine. So that being said, I was stuck for 2 weeks and didn't know what I was going to do. And I was really messed up. And I went back to work, and it was very, very difficult. Now, this was in May of 95. Okay. I went back to work for 1 month, and I could not work anymore. I got home from a flight one day, and I won't go into detail about what happened, but I got home from a flight one day, and I came from Chicago to Phoenix, and we were supposed to do an LA turn. And I decided, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I can't handle it anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. So I walked over to the phone. I picked up. I said, "Hey, Craig, replace me. I'm done. I'm out of here." He goes, "Dude, you just have a leg to LA and back." I said, "Nope, I'm done. I can't do this anymore." And I couldn't. And I was so happy, but I was so sad. And I had so many different feelings, but it's just like, I knew I wasn't supposed to do that anymore. And so I quit the airline. And I don't know what I did for the next few months. I was confused. I'd sit at home. I'd watch TV. I'd go out to the superstitions and take, my dog, and we'd go for hikes. And life was just like kind of weird. And then one day my brother contacts me and says, "Hey, man, let's get you some help." I'm like, "I don't need help." He goes, "Oh, no, listen, at the Papago National Guard, they have a thing called MUFON, Mutual UFO Network, and they have a meeting once a month. And let's just go out there and talk to these people, because they're people that have had the same experience you have, and let's see if that can help. And I'm like, all right, I'll do that. So we went out there, we walked inside, and when we walked inside, this episode of Sightings was showing on the big screen.
It was only 5 months after the incident, so that's crazy.
And so I'm sitting here, and my brother's like, dude, that's your show, that's your sighting. And I'm like, I get all these feelings again. I'm torn up, man. I'm beat up. My body is tired from all of this confusion. And he goes, go tell him that was your show. And I'm like, no, I'm not telling anybody. He goes, no, go tell him that. And so I said, all right, fine. So I walked over. I said, who's in charge? They told me. I said, hey, see that Sightings episode right there you're seeing right now? And he said, yeah. I said, I was on that flight. He goes, what? I said, I was a flight attendant on that flight. He goes, come with me. So he took me back, and we went backstage, and he I don't know what he said to a couple of the other people. He goes, all right, if I call on you, do you mind speaking? And I'm like, I really didn't get a chance to answer. And he just walked away, and I went back and sat down. So after that Sightings episode ended, and then he comes up, he makes the announcements like, all right, so this week we did this, our next thing will do this. And he made announcements and comments. He goes, so at this time, we're going to do a little something different. I know we had this is scheduled, but we have a surprise, and I think you're going to enjoy this. So the Sightings episode you just watched, we have an eyewitness. We have a person that was on that flight, and we would like him to come up here and talk about his experience, if he would, Tim. And I'm sitting back there, and I'm like, I did not want to get up. I did not want to get up. I didn't want to go forward. I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? What have I done? What have I done? Anyway, I got up, I went out there, and I just told, like I just told you what happened. I didn't tell him any other, like the guys in black. I didn't tell anything like that. I'm just like, yeah, we saw it and it thing, and yeah, we don't know what it was. That's the extent of it. So after the show, my brother and I walk out to the back, and all of these people surround me, and I'm like, what's going on? There were weird people. People were like coming up and say, hey man, can I touch you? And I'm like, what? And he's like, oh yeah. And I'm like, Chad, get me out of here. What the hell? Another person walked up and says, will you sign my book? And I'm like, what? What do you mean sign your book? What for? And then so everyone's like, can you tell me, did you see aliens on the ship? Can you? So I was surrounded getting all these questions for a few minutes. And all of a sudden another guy said, hey, can I speak to you? And I walked over. His name's Erskine. He had a AM radio show in Phoenix, Arizona. It was a late night talk show, like Coast to Coast, but it was Phoenix. And he goes, hey man, would you mind being on our show and talking about your experience? I'm like, I don't know. He goes, here's my card. You call me. He goes, we're on Saturday nights. You give me a call. We'll fit you in. It won't take that long. We just want you to come on and just share your experience. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. And I took his card, and I didn't really think much of it, which I ended up going on a show and say, yeah, I'll come on and talk to you. And then when I was on that show that night, I was scared to death. I get on there and I start talking. I start telling the story and everything. And he goes, all right, we have a caller. We're taking questions. Oh, we have a caller. This is Linda Moten Howe. And I'm like, what? I didn't know who Linda Moten Howe was. She's a UFO investigator. For those of you who don't know, she did a lot of the investigations on cattle mutilation and a lot of eyewitnesses.
Regular on Ancient Aliens too.
Yeah, she's a regular there, and she does a lot of investigations for people that have had encounters or seen things. So she said, how do you know it was how do you know who the guys were? I said, I don't know who the guys were. Well, how do you know it wasn't the FAA? And I'm like, I don't know that it was FAA. And she goes, aren't you supposed to look at ID when you? And I said, yeah, but I didn't recognize them as FAA. I don't know who they were. And she goes, so you can't confirm these guys, the identity of these guys. You just walk into your airplane. I'm like, no, because, and she was sitting there beating me up about it. And I look over at Erica. I'm like, dude, what's this all about? I'm just telling you what I know. And she was kind of like, I felt a little pressured.
Being an investigative report.
I was a little irritated. And so Erskine, he recognized it and he goes, all right. And he goes, thank you, Linda. And he gets rid of Linda. And then we start talking again and we finish up what little we did. And I left. And then that was the end of that. I never heard of anything about that again. So this caused me not to want to contact any like investigators or higher up people, because that was that wasn't,
you want to get beat up. Yeah.
It wasn't a pleasant experience. And I just didn't want to meet. I thought I was going to be made fun of and talked down to. So I decided to suppress all this information. So I did for years and years and years. And one day, first officer calls me and says, hey man, what are you doing? I'm like, nothing. He goes, so since you don't work here anymore, we've been asked to talk about our encounter. I've got a name of a guy. His name's Walter Webb, and I can't do it. But since you don't work here anymore, I was thinking maybe you could do it. He goes, so call him. So I called him, and it was at Washington, and it was about 6 p.m. And I said, hi, my name's Tim Rice. I guess my friend contacted you about the sighting, the America West. And he goes, yeah. He goes, listen, how would you be interested in coming down and doing an interview? And I'm like, where, you mean where? And he told me it wasn't Dulles. It was something Washington. I don't remember the name of it. I'm like, well, yeah, but when? He goes, well, let's see, we can get you out on a flight tonight. And I'm like, red flags and bells are going off. And I'm like, let me think about it. Okay. I'll call you back. Let me think about it. So I got off the phone and I told my mom and dad, I'm like, hey, these guys want me to fly to Washington to talk about this thing. And my mom's like, oh no, Tim, you don't want to do that. And they're like, oh, that seems pretty shady. I would think about it. Do you even know who this person is? I said, no, I have no clue. And they're like, nah, that doesn't sound like a good idea. So I didn't even call the guy back. I just forgot his number and I never contacted him again. And then years later, I got the guts to like, you know what? I'm going to call him and see why he wanted me to do that and everything. So I started looking him up. He's gone. Walter Webb has completely disappeared from everything. They took away everything on the internet. They took away, he wrote books and everything. They took away everything about him on the internet. He just disappeared. So I kind of like let it rest at that. And I went on for years and years and years and years until I met Papa Joey. And they said, hey man, we know about your UFO thing. Would you mind coming on our show and talking about it? I'm like, yeah, sounds like fun. And I did. And this is where we are now. Did you want to show anything else, Joey?
I have 2 more videos.
Yeah, let's watch the other videos, and then you can kind of like you'll understand what they are.
Yeah, because the thing I wanted to point out with this is, I mean, that your encounter was 30 years ago next year, which is pretty wild. But just to show how important of an event this was and how credible it was, it's still being talked about today. And this is a really current video. This is done on the Discovery Channel. And this is with Lou Elizondo. And it's pretty cool because it's actually the air traffic controller that you hear on the original.
And for years, I tried to contact this controller and I had no luck at all. And it wasn't until recently that we've discovered this stuff. And it's just amazing. And I'm so glad that this information has come forward because it validates everything I've told you today. So enjoy this.
Howdy, Robert. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Lou Elizondo is meeting with Robert Schlinker, an air traffic controller who was trained in the military. For more than 30 years, Schlinker has guided thousands of commercial planes to safety. On May 25th, 1995, Schlinker arrived for his shift in Albuquerque, New Mexico, to learn that an airline pilot had reported a UFO just minutes earlier to air traffic controllers on the outgoing shift.
The evening shift guy, he gives us a briefing. He said, hey, this guy sees something out there. Don't know what it is.
Not long after the incident, an independent civilian UFO organization created a report on the strange encounter. They also uncovered audio tapes of conversations between the pilot and air traffic controllers.
On to our 3 o'clock. Get some strokes out there. Can you tell us what it is?
The pilot said they had lights in the middle with strobes on the end. It was cigar shape. It was horizontal, and it was about 300 to 400 feet long.
Cactus 564, no one knows what that is. Never heard about that.
But nobody's painting it at all? There's nothing on their radars on the other antennas on that particular area, that object that's up in the air?
There's nothing painting. Painting is a term that they use, that if a radar can hit something and get a signature off of, that object has been painted.
The object is displaying one of the 5 observables, known as low observability. The ability for an object to cloak or conceal itself.
It's up in the air?
Affirmative.
No one knows anything about it. What's the altitude about?
I don't know, probably right around 30,000 or so, and it's the drill that starts going counterclockwise, and the length is unbelievable.
So you have pilot testimony up here saying they're seeing something, and okay, well, could it be an aircraft? There are some airships, there are some dirigibles, but they do not fly at 30,000 feet, and they're still not 400 feet long.
Schlinker takes over the shift and continues to investigate the reported UFO.
Now it's Robert's job to figure out what the hell it is. So what does he do? They get on the horn with folks like NORAD to say, hey, are you seeing this as well?
NORAD is the North American Air Defense Command. It's a joint U.S.-Canada defense organization established in 1957 as an early warning system in case of a Soviet nuclear attack.
So this audio file has your voice on it? Is
yes.
that correct?
Schlinker explains to the NORAD operator exactly what the airline pilot reported seeing.
Where is this at again?
It's at Tucumcari, New Mexico. It's about 150 miles to the east of Albuquerque.
We don't have anything going on that I know of.
Yeah, we've tried everybody else. Nobody else is. This guy definitely saw it run all the way down the side of the airplane. Said it was a pretty interesting thing out there.
Okay, it was at 30,000 feet.
30,000 feet.
It was like long.
Yeah, it's right out of the X-Files. I mean, it's a definite UFO or something like that.
Oh, y'all are serious about this?
Yeah, he's real serious about it.
He says, yeah, like Fox Mulder X-Files UFO. It does not fit any normal profile or characteristic of any known aircraft.
How long did he think it was?
He said it was 300 to 400 foot long.
Holy smokes.
The NORAD operator tells Schlinker they don't see anything on their radar. But then, a short time later, he gets a call.
Yes, we had someone call here earlier about a pilot spotting an unidentified flying object.
Yep, that's us.
Okay, well, hey, we're tracking a search-only track kind of where that might have happened. It's about 10 degrees off of what you gave me before and about 80 miles off. It's tracking about 390 knots. We've been tracking it for about 3-4 minutes now. I mean, to be going that fast, it's got to be up kind of high.
And we got no code on it, huh?
Nope, it's search-only.
Search only means the object wasn't emitting a transponder code, which is used to identify aircraft and help avoid mid-air crashes. And ultimately, the mysterious cigar-shaped UFO disappears.
Yeah, that's a great story. You know,
Man,
it's still.
I'm so choked up.
The story's still alive and kicking.
Yeah, it is. And I kind of like let it go. And
and I meant to pause it there at the beginning because it showed the report, who did the report, and it was
Walter N. Webb, which we can't get a hold of now.
If he's still with us, you know.
There's.
I mean, you saw some obituaries when you're doing your search, but don't know if it's him or not.
There's no contact information, but I'm still going to research that. So we'll let you know if we find anything.
Yeah. Please do. So here's the last one. This one's the shortest one, but this is an older one. But I do like the documents that they show in this one.
Yeah. We drew a picture of, we agreed on what we saw, and these are, I think, the actual drawings that I don't know how anybody got a hold of them, but this is what we all confirmed that we agreed on after the flight. So I don't know how this happened, but here's this.
In the decades after the Washington National incident, aerial sightings were reported more frequently and all across the country. Some episodes were even recorded on tape.
Dark 05, 327.1, 327.1.
On March 25, 1995, 3 crew members on America West Flight 564 saw something unusual in the sky over Bovina, Texas.
Cactus 564, go ahead.
Yeah, off to our 3 o'clock. Get some strokes out there. Can you tell us what it is?
Right now, I don't know what it is right now.
It was 10:25 p.m. and the plane was cruising at 39,000 feet. The crew kept their eyes on a large object with flashing lights.
Yeah, so yeah, that's exactly what we wrote down right there. That's what we all had agreed on. And you couldn't describe it. I think if you look over there on the side, I don't know, it said something about, I don't know, somewhere on there it says where the lights were going from side to side. I don't see that right there, but
it's kind of fuzzy. It's not the most the greatest resolution of a video.
And you could tell his hand was shaking. But that is a straight line between that 400. But this is what we jotted down right away. And I'd never seen this until recently. So that's pretty darn interesting. That brings back a lot of emotion to see that.
Visible below them. When they turned west, the object turned too. Here is the actual conversation between the flight's first officer and air traffic control.
564, did you pay that object at all on your radar?
Cactus 564, no I don't. Talking to the 3 or 4 guys around here, no one knows what that is. We've never heard about that.
But nobody's painting it at all?
Okay, Cactus 564, say again?
There's nothing on the radars on the other centers at all on that particular area, that object that's up in the air?
It's up in the air?
Affirmative.
No, no one knows anything about it.
Eventually, the object moved in front of an active thundercloud. When lightning flashed, the crew got a better look.
What's the altitude about?
I don't know, probably right around 30,000 or so, and it's with a strobe, it starts from going counterclockwise, and the length is unbelievable.
The airline crew was seeing something that ground radar was not picking up. Air traffic controllers alerted Cannon Air Force Base in eastern New Mexico to check if military aircraft, or perhaps weather balloons, were known to be in the area.
Cannon 21.
Cannon, go ahead.
Hey, do you guys know if there was anything like a tethered balloon or anything released that should be above tie band?
No, we haven't heard nothing about it.
Okay. Guy at 39,000 says he sees something at 30,000 that the length is unbelievable and it has a strobe on it. This is not good. Okay.
What does that mean?
I don't know. It's a UFO or something. It's that Roswell crap again.
The desert just outside Roswell, New Mexico, was the site of a mysterious aircraft crash in July of 1947. Some 50 years later, the name Roswell had become synonymous with UFOs. And like Roswell, the experience of Flight 564's crew is still unexplained. Though crew members stick to their story, they prefer to remain anonymous.
There's who all witnessed it right there. First officer, the captain, and the flight attendant, who we got here with us today.
I'm sorry, I'm a little choked up, man.
There's a lot of confusion, a lot of hesitancy about even reporting something like this, even in FAA, even in military. They're going to think we're crazy. I don't want to be grounded. I'm risking something here. And a lot of airline pilots feel that way too. Why should I report this? I don't want to be under a medical microscope here. I'm not losing my mind.
Airlines don't like to employ people who see strange things if you have a reputation in your company or your Air Force squadron as being the guy who saw the UFO from your F-18, I'm not sure I want to fly wing with him. You see, it's a subtle thing. Again, it goes back to denial. It's easier just to deny it and to say, all right, he's an oddball. Or she just saw something that just couldn't be seen, so she's probably not as reliable as she should be.
That's all there is on that one.
And
let's see. You did share with me an actual photograph of your plane.
yes, that was the airplane, 757. That's 908. That's one of our first ones. We had 904, 906, 908, and I think 902. That was one of the first 5 57s we acquired, and I used to fly that one to New York and all over the place. But yeah, it's my favorite bird. Spent many hours on that airplane, many nights, looking out over,
It's one that would let you sit in the cockpit.
Yeah. There's no 3 pilots, though. I know it says there are 3 trained pilots. Yeah. 757 doesn't have a flight engineer. So when he said 3 of us up here saw it, that was those 2 and the flight attendant. And some of them say there were 3 pilots. Some of them say it was 2 pilots and a flight attendant, whatever. That's neither here nor there. Yeah, I get real emotional seeing this again. I don't know, every time. And it's incredible. And so Joey's encouraged me to share this with you. And I want to thank you, Joey, for all your beautiful animation and all of your graphics and all your work. He's done a great job putting all this together. But this provides me, I wouldn't say closure, but it comforts and it helps me. I need to know that what I'm saying makes sense to other people. And if other people can say, wow, yeah, I totally understand and I believe you, then it makes that I wouldn't say hurt or pain go away, but it comforts the feelings I have, the bad feelings about the sighting. It eases those. But
for me, the story never gets old. So I always love to hear you retell.
I didn't think it did either, but now watching this stuff, I'm sitting here shaking
several times, but this is the first time on our Out There channel, and I really wanted to make sure we got it on here.
Right.
Because we had a lot more information this time. I would have liked to pulled up that, maybe I can. I do. I think I can if I do the,
and thank you guys for all, hopping on and joining. I mean, it means a lot. And I hope the people that see this in the future, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. I mean,
yeah, please do.
If you've had any experiences like this,
that pop up. So here's the report by Walter Webb. Is it showing up on there? I got
yeah.
Okay, yeah, cool. So, yeah, we found this yesterday. The actual report that Walter Webb.
Somewhere
it's on a website called Black Vault. Yeah, here it is. Black Vault,
which is new to me. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, this has everything you want to know
That's got
about
the whole.
It's got the whole transcript.
The whole transcript.
And
every word of it.
Walter Webb's whole report.
And what I like about this one, it says the flight attendant was the first one to see the object, which they don't do that in any of the recreations or anything like that. But yeah.
So look that up if you can. It's
but I hope you enjoy this.
I can link it into the description on this somehow. So,
but I hope you enjoyed it, and
gives me an idea though, dude, for next week maybe.
Okay, let's talk about next week.
Well, first, let me thank you though for sharing your story again.
Sure.
It's like I said, it doesn't get old to me, and it
you.
gives me chills too. But from that last video where they were talking about Roswell and the crash, back in 47, I'd love to go back and talk about all of the things that were developed shortly thereafter, technology after Roswell.
Right. Don't get me started.
That's always a fun topic.
Yeah.
So
that is a good show, though. How we went from 10,000 years with a wheel and fire, and then after 1947, now we have microwaves, fiber optics, laser, night vision, lasers, circuitry, nano chips. Yeah. Wonder how
we don't
that
get too much away before then, but hey, Mikey likes it.
Thank you, Mikey.
So anyway, folks,
that's our lunch. That's our lunch hour. We went over a little bit.
Today,
Thank you, guys.
Let me make sure I get the next thing going here.
Again, thank you guys for joining us. Feel free to contact, email us, subscribe, share, do all that good stuff.
Yeah,
and
please
let's
share
get
this
with
one if
other
you can.
people that
We'd love to get this one with
we'd
a
love
little
to
more.
hear other people with experiences. We'd love to find out who those people are and
get some more legs on this episode for us. Yes. All right. Well, till next week. So I think we'll be doing Roswell next week. So,
all right. You guys take care. Have a good week.
Almost did the intro again.
That's all right.
Love you guys.
Peace.
How come it's not playing?
Go away.
It's not playing. Why won't it play?
Okay.
Maybe I got too many.
Thanks for watching.
Hey, if you really enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up because that really helps the channel. And then share it.
Oh, and if you haven't done so, please subscribe.
Hey, hit that alert bell so you'll know when we post a new episode.
Or if we go live, you don't want to miss that.
Hey, let us know in the comments section what topics you'd like us to cover in the future.
And always, if you have a story you'd like to share, please let us know.
Until next time,
that's Papa Joy.
And that's Uncle Tim.
Beyond the realm of the known lies the mysteries of out there.